and whoever is not able to join us, we will send the recording over.
Okay. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Welcome. How's your Wednesday morning so far?
Not bad. So far, so good.
Yeah, I made lots of phone calls already and closed a couple of deals.
Not quite. I did make it to the office, so I'm in.
Oh, you did? Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. All right. Well, hey, you know what? We're going to start. Simon, let's move everybody over back to the. Actually, let's leave them here. That's fine. There's only a couple of people today, so let's leave it all here. Just mute them if you don't mind, so that we don't get feedback. There was something that you guys got out of it and started implementing some of these items in there. I want to do a little bit of a review, and then I'll bring you guys back online and unmute you and talk a little bit about what your value proposition looks like. So last week we talked a little bit about what the law of value is. The actual statement says it's your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. And then the 5 elements of value are being excellent in everything you do, being consistent, paying attention, having empathy, and appreciating the people you're working with. And how do you provide value? That's one thing that I want to talk about right now. Is that there's different industries have different ways of doing it. So let's open this up, Simon, and let's see what Andrea and Aaron do for providing value. And if you have any questions regarding the conversation about value at this point, before you move ahead.
I'm like, where did I put my notes? I have no idea.
Okay. Aaron, how about you?
I don't have like a set manifesto as far as like, okay, here's what I do that makes me better than someone else. But I think that the way I kind of look at it is put them ahead of you, put your customer ahead of you and what's in their best interest, and always have that mindset. And I try and do as much for a customer as I can, and just go above and beyond, because I know that that will pay dividends in the future. So, just yesterday we got an accepted offer on a place, and I went ahead and booked the inspector. We did an air quality test and booked the septic, to get that tested and everything done, and called the customer and sent him an email, and then followed up with a call that just said, hey, you're booked for this date. Here's everything's here. Here's all the contacts. They'll all be contacting you for payment. And he was blown away. He was like, wow. He's like, I've never had that happen before. So he was super appreciative of that. And it's just something that I think you should do for your clients.
That's incredible. You made his or their lives really easy, took the pain away from all the little nitty gritty stuff. And all it took was a couple of phone calls for you. It didn't cost you anything at all.
No.
Yeah, but the dividends you got out of that was huge. And that's that commission check that you're going to get is well worth it just by doing that little part. They're not even going to question it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's perfect. Well done, well done. So you said earlier you don't have a specific manifesto in your value proposition or how you provide value. We're going to go through that in the next section, and it'll be really interesting to see how you can create that. And it's a real reminder. We actually did ours again yesterday, and then Simon actually went through that and said, hey, listen, we need to add a couple more things in here and a couple more appreciation steps, because we're missing out on some of these things. This is kind of normal, so let's put this in there. So when we create this called a value ladder, it'll be a really good exercise to go through for you guys. Okay, Andrea, how about you?
Well, I've decided to forgo my notes and just think about it right now. Wow, if I look at value on my customers, so my customers are essentially people who come in contact in some way, shape, or form with people who are struggling with substance use disorder. And I guess if I look at how I provide value, it's providing resources, education, the easiest, I guess a path, like a clear pathway for people, depending on the walk of life that they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's a family member that's struggling with somebody, or a physician. I mean, I work with, I'll call on companies, HR departments that, require resources. Perhaps they don't have drug policies within the organization to support clinicians, therapists. It's kind of vast, and everybody requires different resources depending on, where they are, like, who they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think how I provide value is knowing what those resources are by listening to them. Yeah. Sometimes appreciating their honesty with me. Like, it surprises me when I speak to people about what I do, how quickly people will say, "Oh, my brother," or I spent time at Edgewood," or people are very open. Yeah. And one of the things I think that I bring to the table for Edgewood is that people do feel very open to communicate with me.
Right.
A lot of times they don't hold back, and they're very honest. And I think that the other thing about that too is I was just at a Recovery Capital conference last week, and one of the conversations that they're trying to dispel is that conversation around stigma attached to alcoholics and drug addicts, and how even using the word substance abuse or drug addict for that matter creates a stigma. And there's a lot of evidence to support that it is a disorder, that people who struggle with alcoholism are no different than somebody who, has cancer. It is, it's considered a disease. There's dysregulation in the brain, and it has people do things that, in a coherent mind they wouldn't do. And there's a lot of shame attached and guilt, and it really rocks people's worlds and the family and people around them who support them. So my job is just to be there and value who they are.
So one of the things that you're doing, one of the elements of value is empathy, and I can feel the empathy just oozing out of you right now, which is incredible. And even the appreciation and the attention that you're providing, that means a lot. So these are all the values, right? So I don't know, can you guys see on my screen our value ladder? Simon, can you see?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
good. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly share with you guys what we kind of do, right? So when I say a value ladder, remember I was talking about the jar, making sure that the jar is full before you start talking price. So, when I meet somebody, we have a conversation, and I start my form method. I think I talked a little bit about the form last week, about form stands for family, occupation, recreation, message, finding out those things about those people individually. And then as soon as we do that, that's our first point. Then I always call to say thank you, and it was a pleasure to meet you. That's my appreciation method as well. And then my second action is, we follow up, we send introductions, or whatever we talked about in that meeting. I make notes of it. And, if it's something about their recreation, say it was they're a cyclist, I would send them a article on cycling. Or if their kid was going to University of Waterloo, for example, I'd find an article on University of Waterloo and send them, hey, look what I just found about Waterloo, and just share that information with them. And then I also send a nice thank you card. Actually, we don't do the appreciation all the way right now. We're actually starting to do some of that stuff. So sending a card to say thank you for taking the time to read this. And it's a handwritten card. And then my next value ladder is invite them to an introductory conference or a workshop. Then you send them a card again to thank them for their workshop. Invite them to a webinar, invite them to a workshop, invite them to a one-day session. So you can see value is getting built more and more. And then the spell check should be good here as well. Client for coaching and client for life. is what I go after, right? Client for life is kind of what we want. And we're building this entire value ladder right from the moment we meet that person. So we have a step in the process. And if there's something that's missing, we fill it in. And if you notice, every step of the value, there is an appreciation method. Okay, so we digressed a bit, but I wanted to just share some of our things that we do. So we're going to go through that in a second. So interesting enough, you know, we always think that we're the heroes for our customers. You know, the car salesman, the IT person, the realtor. Hey, we're going to find you the best home. It's our job. We're the superheroes to get this thing done. In fact, I invite you to make your customer the hero. Here, they're the superhero, and it's our role to be the guide. We're guiding the customer to where they want to get to. Simon, could you put Andrea on mute, please? Thank you. So as we change that mind shift, that it's not us who have that hero mentality, that we're not here to save our customer, we're here to guide the customer to the end result of what they want to do. Now, to do that, you've got to find a bit of a story, right? Now, a story, you know, every movie has a story. And what the story is you're telling people on what that looks like, and you're actually playing out the role. Our jobs is to find out what the customer's story is and what that issue is, and create that story in your own head. So there's Donald Miller has something called the Story Brand. It's a website that helps you create these little stories. So I'm just gonna look at it. I'm just gonna show you here what it does here. So if you look at the character, so the character is your customer, and they have a problem, right? Whatever the problem is, they meet a guide, so they meet you who understands their fear, understands their issues, understands their concerns. Now your guide, you as a guide, is listening to that problem, understanding it, and now you're giving them a plan. That plan could be showing them houses, finding out what the requirements are, seeing if there's a need for your services, Andrea. And then it says, then the guide takes them into the action. What is the action then? The action could be the actual admittance to the recovery place, or it could be actually a sale of a house, or it could be a computer. Whatever that action is, you're taking that action based on what you found out about the hero, found out about what the customer's requirements are, not for your benefit. This is really putting the customer at front. You are really listening to what the customer's requirements are. It's not a house that they want. They want a house for a specific reason. It's up to us to find out what that reason is. And then you take it to action, which results in success for the client or failure for the client. If it's a failure, it basically means we didn't look at what the problem was. We never found out what the real problem was. So we'll send you this storybrand.com web link, but I invite you to look at every single situation, every single solution that you're dealing with in a story matter. Find out what the problem is, have a conversation about it. Now your job is to guide them right through that process, okay? Now, sorry.
I was just going to say, to comment on that, it's Star Wars. It's always Star Wars. It's the first one.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's right. That's right. Who else is like Star Wars here? I think we can all relate to it in the years that we've been around. So that's great. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that. Sorry. Somebody go ahead, Aaron. No. Okay. So, what is your hero's problem? The external problem is, Joey is trying to make his third quarter quota. That's the external problem. That's what he kind of knows. What the internal problem really is, Joey is not sure if he can do it. He is losing his confidence and wondering if he's good enough. As salespeople, we're in such a quota-driven society that you have a sales meeting, you've got some targets to meet, and you've got to hit those. Now, Joe is, dealing with survival mode. He's not really sure if he can actually hit this quota, and he's like, "What am I going to do? How am I going to do this?" So, what do they actually believe? They're actually believing that there's no hope for them. If they had hope and they had a guide to help them through that process, it's actually easier to be able to get done. So now I want you to look at so this one here is a little bit difficult to follow. So I invite you to come in, get present to this conversation just for a second here. Actually, I'm hoping you're going to be present for the next 40 minutes as well. But so identify a current customer who is your avatar. So we're using a little bit of fun here. Now, to me, an avatar, I'm going to use this as an example of look at your customers that you currently have and find out who your ideal customer base is. Who works really well with you and who do you work really well with? And then why is that? Okay, so I'll give you a second just to think about 3 or 4 customers in the last year or two that really stand out and understand why. Okay, so now you've got your customer. I'm just gonna move this over. Now you've got your customer. Now, if you can help the customer understand how to effectively communicate their value, and if you could help that customer figure out what their issue is and how you solve it, you would have a customer for life, correct? So if I look at the Go-Givers philosophy, the Go-Givers is basically if we can help someone understand how to effectively communicate their value and turn that into greatly increasing sales, I would have a customer for life. So imagine taking that into your business. If I could help my customer understand or find what the solution is, and in turn, they would have a happy home or they would have a successful business, whatever that is, you would have a customer for life. So really look at who your customers that really work well with you are and why you get along with them well. There's a big connection you've got with them. And now understand how you help them and what their pain points were. Okay. So, identifying their problems, frustration, needs, and worries. Now, if you could wake up tomorrow morning with the following 3 issues resolved, his life would totally change or her life would totally change. What would those 3 things be, and how do you find those things out? If you look at what we do in business and how we deal with this, our customers that we work with, they're struggling with getting clarity in their business and how to provide an experience on value. How do they get alignment between everybody in the businesses? So we kind of know those 3 pain points. Now, how do we solve that? How do we go in and look at that? We listen to what they have to do. We listen to where their issues are. We create the story. We work with them. We coach them. We align every single process. And then at the end, we want to make sure that they're actually, we're providing them the value so that they're actually generating profit. So if you were to find your 3 main pain points for your clients and you had a solution for those 3 main points, it'd be perfect. So our main pain points that we know most businesses have are time. I just don't have enough time in the day. Money is always a cash flow issue. Now, it could be a good cash flow or bad cash flow. Most of our customers actually have a bad cash flow problem. And the last thing is the people. They always are looking for the right people. We just don't have enough people doing the right jobs. So we know those 3 pain points that most of our customers have, and we have solutions and we have stories behind all those 3 things because we've been doing it for a while. We've articulated that. So I invite you to do the same thing with your customer base. You know, if you look at here, at some point, the customer is experienced this because of this, is receptive to my message. Now, challenging in selling is what they thought selling was. So if you look at go-givers, some people thought selling was doing exactly what the old method was, and now they've actually looked at the value conversation, and this actually has turned them into better salespeople, or better value-driven people. At the end of the day, they're getting more results based on that. The single biggest obstacle in purchasing my product is, so let's think about what you guys go through. What is the biggest obstacle that's in your customer's way from them purchasing your product? Okay. Could be cash, could be awareness of the problem, could be not enough time, could be my partner doesn't want this, the family is not sure, whatever those obstacles are, or they're just not committed. You need to find out what those are, and then really start looking at how you solve it. Now, if you look at the last 5 slides, it was all about finding out what their problems are and what your avatar or your customers' issues are, like, you know, what they deal with, what they go through. So you're actually putting yourselves in their shoes. Remember, we said you're not the hero, they're the hero, you're the guide. How do you actually guide them to success? You've got to really understand who they are and why they do this. Get into their psyche. Like, it's that intrinsic value, getting inside what others think and what they're behaving like, and trying to find out what their main issues are, and resolving those will actually help you all. Success. Okay. So I just kind of threw this in here, and we'll send this to you in a worksheet. Think about those problems. Think about those pain points. Now, if a customer is searching for you on the web for some reason, what are those words you'd put in here? It's not what you do. It's not what your solution is. It's what their pain points are. How do I get my employees aligned? My employees are just not talking to each other. There's a lot of water cooler talk happening. How do I solve that? That's the problem that they're going to search. They're not going to search, how does Dante Group solve my problem? They're actually going to search what the problem is. So figure out what those frustrations are and list those out. And that'll also help you in your story branding. Okay. So we have Harry Brown's 5-step sales presentation. Now, Harry Brown's a well-renowned sales coach and he's been around for years. And Bob Burg really follows his process. And he goes, you know, discover the prospect's motivation to buy. Find out why they want to buy. Find out exactly what that looks like. Summarize it, present it, answer any questions and objections, close and open. Now, sorry, going back and forth. The nicest way you guys can work on this is trying to really figure out what kind of questions to ask them. And we're going to get into some questions that we have here. So salespeople everywhere are consumed with the solution without really knowing the problem. You know, I've got a couple of realtors here. How many of you have listings coming out of your yin yang right now? And you've got buyers sitting around looking to buy something, and you know, it's easy to just say, hey, I've got this listing, have a look at it, without really understanding what that customer really wants. It may not be the solution, because that's not going to match their fit, but it's easy for us to do that. So, you know, salespeople everywhere are consuming the solution without really knowing the problem. So really look at what the problem is first. So discovery questions, what do those look like? Here's some examples. So remember, this is based around business coaching and sales and workshops, right? So What is the biggest challenge you'd like to be able to solve through this? What would you like to accomplish through this purchase or through this admittance? How would you most successfully have accomplished this? I'm just going to put all these up here. And I like this last one here. What do you feel were the issues that caused you to end up here? Or what were some of the opportunities in your lifestyle that have changed for you to allow to upgrade your home? And what does that look like for you? So, some of these are, hey, this is your third home you're buying. How did it feel getting to your second home? What was that understanding for? What made you get there? What did you experience? How did you enjoy that? What was the impact in your life? And now what are you looking at for impact of your life or future? And really understanding that them as people, as opposed to, oh yeah, you want a 3 bedrooms, a garage, and a basement, and then you want a balcony, and then you want to be close to the beach. Those are great little features and benefits, but find out why they want those. Do they want to be by the beach because that's their lifestyle? And as they say, yeah, I love to walk and I'm looking at kayaking now. So that gives you a better idea of what they're looking for. Because imagine they want a kayak and they want to be by the beach, and you find them a nice 2-bedroom townhouse around the beach area, but they have no storage for a kayak. They haven't thought about that. Oh yeah, I'll fit my garage, but the garage is too small for that kayak. So those are the things that you've got to start really being in their intrinsic value. So look at really what they're all about. So discovery questions are huge. We're going to start, we'll send you some of these. It'll give you an idea of how to create your discovery questions and really start looking at those. So I want to go back into summarizing. When they start telling you some of these answers, ask them again, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. What is it that you're looking for again, and how is that going to impact you? Or before we continue, is there anything else we may not have covered? Is there anything else I should have asked but did not? That one's a little cheeky, so that could come back to you and say, well, how come you're not asking me the right questions? Why am I telling you how to do your job? But hopefully by this time, your value jar is so high, you don't need to worry about that. You've got a good relationship, and this is just a friendly thing. Hey, hey, is there anything else I should know about you? I mean, I've asked you a lot of things, but there's some things that are outstanding. I'm sure there's something there hidden in the closets. Let's open up and let's see what those are. And you've got that conversation and relationship built up already. Okay, so you summarize, you present your offer, you present the solution, you answer any objections, and then you close the deal. Right? Those are the simple things. The first two things are the key once you really find out what the solutions are. And then we talked about the go-giver process. Remember, we talked about attracting potential customers, talking about capture leads, you nurture your prospects, you convert them into sales, and you deliver the service and product. And lastly, you obtain referrals. Now, I put that at the last, but that obtain referrals could be anywhere in that process. So here's a sales process for a business coach. So this could be for us, or it could be for anybody who's in the business coaching environment. So you send a letter, you call within 4 to 5 days to follow up on the letter. You discuss the letter, schedule an in-person meeting, you follow up, email confirming meeting with testimonials, you meet, you ask your discovery questions, you give them a proposal, provide references, you sign the agreement, and begin working with the client. Now, here's a very simple business coach process. You tie this with your value ladder and your appreciation ladder, you've got a system that's gonna start giving you some information about who your avatars are, who your heroes are, and why things work well. Remember I talked about excellence, and we talked about empathy and appreciation. You've got to come up with your process. And then if we look at this table here, and you list out your excellence, consistency, attention, empathy, and appreciation, and you start ranking what those all look like. So, for example, the first process for the business coaching was send a letter to a prospective client. Okay, in excellence, we're number 9. In consistency, we're number 9. Attention, we're number 9. Empathy and appreciation are kind of blanks right now. What are some of the ideas and action steps you could be taking? Research in detail the client and customize the letter more, because they want to get to 10. So if you were to list out your process, list out these items on there, and then rank yourselves, and then figure out what needs to be done to get to number 10, that's where the value comes in. So Aaron, I'm just going to unmute you for a second. Saima. Aaron, you talked a little bit about what you did for your client about finding the inspectors and the septic tanks and that kind of stuff. Those, that's part of this process somewhere. I'm not sure where it would fit in, but then figure out the excellence and consistency and attention, empathy, and appreciation value ladder against those as well. Not the value, sorry, the rankings of those in that process you did. And if it's a 7 or an 8, figure out how you can make it a 10. What do you need to do to make it a 10? Do you need to have partnerships that are in place right away that you can make a call and these guys will react to you? Whatever that looks like. Does that make sense, Aaron?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So, you know, you're in the real estate business. How would you create your sales process? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, I do a lot of cold calling. And so once I talk to someone on the phone, I'm writing as many notes as I can about the person, trying to get as many details as possible. Right after I'm done the call with them that day, I write a handwritten letter just thanking them for their time. And then what I always do is I deliver it. So instead of just sending it in the mail, I always just say, hey, I was driving by on my way home, just thought it's nice to put a face to a name. And I hand them the letter personally. Gives me another chance to kind of talk to them and get to know a little bit more about them. It's funny the reaction you get too, because people are blown away, right? Like at first they're kind of weirded out. And then, you know, but a few times I've had people say, oh, well, why don't you come on in and take a look at the house? And because my goal in cold calling is to try and get an appointment to do CMA.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just gets me right to it. Other times, you know, if they're not home or if I just drop off the letter, then what I do is I follow up in 30 days from there and I send a letter and I try and put in my letter something that we spoke about on the phone or some sort of personal detail that they had told me. Yeah. And with that, I send out like a notepad and a little writing board and stuff like that. And then I follow up. Then basically that puts them onto a schedule where I follow up with phone calls and just kind of keep in contact with them and add them to my CRM and go from there.
Perfect. So you've got a process. So we're going to send you, all of you, this type of an example. It's an Excel sheet. Use this as your sales process. Create your process and then start ranking your elements of value and really see what you need to elevate yourselves to. Be excellent in what you do and get to number 10 and write down everything you need to do to get there. If it's as simple as I need to get a CRM, put that in there. Because if you don't write it down, you're not going to make the action happen. So your action items right now are complete the workbook, pages on ideal, and who the hero is and the heroine. Create the experience value, which we just talked about, and add items to your 90-day action plan. So I'll bring up the action plan for you guys. You know, if we look at, let me just bring it up here so I can go back to it. So we're at week 2 right now. So if you start now, what's your action plan that you have to do right now to make sure that you're providing the value you need to do? Make the notes, create a completion date, and then start sharing this with people that are going to help you that is going to hold you accountable. Now, if in your action plans, will be things like your value ladder, your why statement, what is it, your discovery questions, write all those down and then start really working on what that looks like for you. And I want to just head back here. Hope you guys are speed readers. Okay, so the why statement, Simon, I think we sent out a ask the Simon Sinek's why video last week.
We sent some sheets, yes, on the
Okay, good.
workbook.
Okay, good. So this is it for this section right now on the value section. Now, I really want to open this up for the next few minutes and talk with there's 4 of you online right now, and really open up and say, what is it that you're doing for value? And let's take one person and let's look at creating a value ladder for you right now. And it'll give us an example of what that looks like. Who wants to volunteer? Put your hands up. Oh, everybody's quiet.
I've unmuted everybody, so
I know. They're all scared. They're all scared about creating the value ladder. Remember, the value ladder is really simple. It's, let me bring up mine. Okay, so here's our value ladder. Who wants to start creating one of their own value ladders? Or if you have one, let's share it. No, nobody?
You can do mine if you want.
Sure, let's do that, Aaron. I'd love to do that. So I'm gonna basically copy this entire sheet. Copy, perfect. So what's your first touch point? What do you do?
Well, if we use a cold calling example, the first thing I do is like I have a list of numbers.
Yeah.
But what I do is I like to look at the area. So I bring up on Cosmos the area, so I know exactly where I'm calling.
Yeah.
So when I say, "Oh, you live in a great area," it's not, you know, it is a nice area.
Okay. Okay. So you do cold call, and so first you do your segmentation of the market, then you do the cold call, and in that cold call, what is your intention? What are you trying to do in that cold call?
I'm trying to get a CMA. I'm trying to get an appointment to go see them and give them a evaluation of their home.
Okay. And what's your process of doing that? Like, if you just call me up and say, hey, I want to come and see you to do an evaluation of your home, I'm going to say, okay, that's really nice. I'll get back to you.
Well, I have a script that I've been working on that basically just expresses that there's been a lot of interest in their neighborhoods by buyers, and that have they ever thought of selling their home? It's as simple as that.
Okay, lots of interest. So you're piquing their interest that way.
Yeah.
Your neighbors are doing it, and the value could be tremendous. It's more a financial value at that point, right? Like a financial incentive. Okay. Okay, so you've done that. Now I'm just gonna, okay, that's fine. What's your appreciation method after that call? What do you do after you've gotten off that call?
So after I've gotten off that call, if they tell me to get lost, I don't do anything. But if they were receptive or gave me an email address or a phone number or asked me to, I'm also asking if they don't want to see me, I ask them if it's all right if I stay in contact with them. And if they usually say yes, and then I ask them what form is best for them, if it's either through phone or through email. Mm-hmm. And so the letter is basically me saying thank you for allowing me to stay in contact with them.
Okay. Okay. And then is there a thank you way of you getting back to them in a phone call or just a handwritten?
I do a handwritten note first.
Okay. Thank them. Okay.
And then I drop it off personally that day.
Ah, perfect. You drop it off personally.
Yep.
Love it. Okay. And then what's the next step with those guys? So you said something there. You said if they could tell you get lost, you put them away. Is there any value you can bring to those people that say nothing?
Well, it's usually pretty black or white. Like they're either receptive to it, and you can tell in their tone, or they tell you to get stuff. So you know what? I'm always pleasant and just say, hey, you know what? Thank you for your time. And the way I look at it is, you're trying to qualify people, and that's a really easy way to qualify as a no.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So what's your next step with these people that gave you the appointment?
So when I drop it off, I get more information from them. So what I do here, actually, I should open it up. Is I'll follow it up with a letter 30 days after. And then with that letter, I have like a gift. So I have something of value. So I'll either put a report in it. I'll put some, I have like a little dry erase board I put in with it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then I follow that up with a phone call just to make sure that they got it. And I do that usually about a week after.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're doing. We're writing out your sales process, right?
Yeah.
So within your sales process, let's look at where the value is being built. So so it's a great exercise. Now, this is where we're going to just reshift where we're going. We're not talking about how you sell. We're talking about how are you providing value to that contact.
Okay.
Okay. So you've done the cold call. You've got the area. You say you live in a great area. I like the fact that you're appreciating them by dropping them a note. You're dropping it off personally. I love that. Now,
Yeah.
What's the value for them? So far, it's still all about you. It's about you getting that appointment. It's about you seeing them. What's in it for them? What are they getting out of getting to know you?
Well, I have to give them something of value. They have to be learning, or I'm just spamming them is the way I look at it. So if, you know, in my letter, I'll either give them an update on their area, on what's the recent solds, or the recent, it all really depends on what we've talked about. You know, if they said, oh, you know, I want to sell in a couple of years, then I'm not going to sell, you know, I'm not going to send them information on trying to get them to sell right now. So I usually either send them information that kind of is tailored to what we've spoken about. So it really depends. They're either going to try and sell in the first 6 months, or they're going to sell in a couple of years, and it's kind of different what I send them.
Yeah.
But every time I send them something, or anytime I bother someone, I think that you have to offer something of value, or you're just bothering people.
Yeah. So let's just open this up a bit. Let's think a little bit more broader and wider. Okay. So you come to visit me at my house, and you brought me, you dropped us a thank you. You've given me some market segmentation, some comparables, and got my interest really piqued. But you're in my house. You're seeing how I live. You're noticing I'm a cyclist and I've got a kayak, and my garden kind of doesn't look that great, but I'd like to cook. You've seen all that stuff because you're very perceptive in that visit. What value can you add at that point? What more can you give for me to build that relationship? Remember, we started this whole conversation not about selling, it's about providing value, and value comes from a strong relationship.
Yeah.
So what is it that you could do to build that relationship stronger with me?
Well, you can build stuff outside of the selling kind of aspect. You could send articles on gardening, tell them about a bike race coming up, or information like that I think is something that would pique their interest, or you know, something that you can find some commonality on.
Yeah, because remember, how many realtors are there in the Lower Mainland?
Too many.
You know, you want to be differentiated by the others, or you want to build a friendship quicker than anybody else will. And people love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about their hobbies. People love to talk about their families. If you're in my house, you've got an open invitation to figure out who I am and how I'm doing, what I'm up to. And you know, I invite you to start looking deeper than just the house and just the appointment. Look at it from a bigger perspective. How do I become best friends with this person? Because if you're best friends with me on that visit, I'm going to start giving you referrals right away, as well as sign up with you and do everything else. But if we're just dealing as a transaction model, we're leaning towards more about, okay, what's my house worth? How much is the commission? And how quick are you going to sell it for me? As opposed to finding out the solution.
Find that's better to deal with on a personal, like to talk to someone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you can really get that across in a letter. You know, your letter is kind of, hey, here's what here's what, you know, here's the services I provide, here's some value in in the information I'm giving you. But I think that what you're talking about really happens, or for me, it seems to be better in a face-to-face kind of setting, because you can ask those questions. You can listen to those stories, and you can do that, which you can't do.
That's right. That's
over emails or even, you know, through letters.
Perfect. So, you know, when you do the visit, when you drop off that card and that market analysis, that's a great time you're in the house, you can start building a relationship further, right? So visit, obtain personal interest, and you can send them a appreciation after that. I'm sure you do that. What happens after that, Aaron? What do you do after that visit? What's the value that you bring to them?
After the visit?
Yeah, after you dropped off the card, and you know, what's the next set of value that you could provide to them? This is, by the way, you guys, whoever's on the line, this is not easy stuff. This is a mind shift from the sales process to the value process. We're really ingrained with the sales process, and we have to have a sales process. But now we want to say, I want my sales process to be easier. I just want to spend the time to build the value process. So what's the next thing that you could do you may do it or you may not do it yet, but let's think about what you could do after you've visited me at my house. What's the next value?
Well, you know, I usually ask people if they want to sign up for my newsletter, and my newsletter isn't just your standard newsletter. I try and do something a bit different and give information on their area. So that's something that they get a reminder from me every month. And I think that there's value in that. I get good response from it. And then I try and call, like every 90 days, I try and put a call out to them and just ask if there's anything that they need, see how they're doing, and just continue the conversation. And then after every call, I send a little note and say, you know, thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Okay. That's great. That's great. So I'm going to take these ones out.
Just giving you a heads up, Licky, 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I'm just wrapping this up here. Thanks. So Aaron, I'm going to send this copy to you.
Cool.
And we're going to send the copy to everybody, actually. We want you to really look at how to build value right from the first touch point. The intent here is to build a relationship that's so strong that you can get a referral from that cold call or from that first meeting as you move forward. So if I was to meet somebody right now, my intention is to get referrals from them. And if I'm going to get referrals from them, how are we going to do that? We're going to build a relationship. We're going to be able to listen to what their problems are, trying to find out what their requirements are, and somehow explain to them what I do. And build that strong, friendly relationship so that you can actually build a referral business. But it's not about the building the referral business. It's actually providing them value that the referral just comes by chance. It just naturally comes along. If you're thinking that it's all about the referrals, then it's going to show up and it's not going to work. It's about building that value so that you get that connection happening. So if you notice mine, Simon actually had a good conversation about this yesterday. Right away, I meet and I start implementing my form method. The form method again, and we're going to get through that in the next section. It's an incredible way of learning about people. And once I follow that form method, we have a relationship. And if I can't get to it and I can't do it, we're probably not going to be friends. We're just going to be business associates. Then I've got to change my focus with them, and that's okay. But if I know they're going to be friends, and if I know we're going to be friends, we're going to be able to move ahead a lot faster and that's kind of who I want as a customer. My avatar is a person who's a friend of mine. All right. Any questions before we wrap it up and get off a couple minutes early today? Yes, Andrea.
Yeah, what does FORM mean again? Family?
Okay, so F stands for family. Find out whether they're married, how many kids they have. O stands for occupation.
Okay.
What do they do for a living? What title do they have? How long have they been doing it? How they got into it. It's actually, people love to talk about hey, you sound like you really love what you do. What got you interested in doing that? R is for recreation. Find out what their interests are. Hiking, cycling, swimming, ballet, whatever that recreation is. Find out what it is. The M is the interesting one. It's their message. It's what's their social stance. Are they about not-for-profit charities to alleviate global poverty? Are they about helping cancer? Are they about supporting diabetes or MAD? Whatever their social stance is, really get to know what that is. Once you get these 4 things, and now remember, please don't go into a meeting and do a checklist. Okay, I got my F, I got my O, I got my R, and I got my M. It's not about that. It's about starting from somewhere and getting all of the 4 components over a few conversations. That's how you build a relationship. So I start right away with that methodology, and then I build a relationship further. So I invite you to look at the same way. And I think you guys all do that. You just don't know you do it. We're all about relationships. That's why you're all here. You're all into providing value to your clients. That's why you're all here. But I've got a method that I kind of do a checklist after. It's like, okay, I've done what I need to do, and what I need to do next is provide more value. Anything else, Andrea?
Well, I just not questions necessarily, but what I kind of discovered in this hour was if I'm looking only at physicians, I found it very difficult to kind of work through this, and I just shifted the person, whatever, what is that?
Avatar.
Avatar, the kind of the person that I want to focus on.
Yeah.
Which is more around organization, simply because there's a huge financial impact on companies when they have employees that are struggling with substance abuse.
Yeah.
And it's not just the employee, it's the employees' families that are impacted, which then just creates this kind of cycle of whatever. And so it was really great going through with Aaron's action plan and his appreciation method. And I just did it for companies and how I do. And it actually was really insightful for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. And again, if you need help with creating the value ladder, I don't mind doing a one-on-one call with any of you. Just let me know and we'll go through that process with you guys. Okay. Sam, I'm just going to bring up next week's.
Actually, I have it open. It's the law of compensation, and we'll be able to touch on the law of influence as well next week.
Okay. So the law of compensation is your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So we take the value conversation and we multiply it. So the more value you provide, the more compensation you get. And then the law of influence is basically about putting other people's interests first. And this is where that entire networking and the referral model comes into play. So everything we've talked about today and last week is all about the foundations about value. And now we put it all together and saying, how do I go get more business? How do I give more value to everybody else? That's easy as it becomes so natural. So I'm excited about the next week's session as well. All right. If no other questions, we're going to call it a day. Enjoy your Wednesday and have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.